Hello, Huskies, and welcome back to another edition of the Talk a Latte podcast with Christian and Jamie. Unfortunately, Christian is not here today, so I am your lone host. But with me today to talk about all things CPT, I have two very special guests. So if you guys would like to introduce yourselves.
Sure. Hi. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Machel Borsum. I am the manager of International Student and Scholar Services at Michigan Tech, with our primary role being on international employment, which is the OPT and CPT.
All right, and I'm Natalie Anderson. I work in Career Services. I'm the manager of advising and specifically in cooperative education.
We have very long role names in these departments, if you couldn't tell. I know it's a mouthful. As I mentioned, today we will be talking about CPT. And the reason we have a mixture of people today is because this is kind of a two-department, even more, processing thing. So you guys are the main groups that handle this. So let's start off with the basics. What is CPT? I know a lot of students want to know everything about it, but some people are new and they don't even know what it is. So what is CPT?
So CPT is Curricular Practical Training. So this is what allows international students to work legally in the U.S. And one of the requirements for CPT is having that tied to an academic class. So that's what the co-op program does for you.
Okay.
And that is how, like she was saying, is basically our international students are eligible to work on, similar to what an internship is.
Mm-hmm. So co-ops, internships is more like the domestic student side, but then for international students, it's all just CPT, right? Okay, awesome. So how long is the duration of different CPTs, or how long can it be authorized for?
So for duration, you have up to 364 days. We recommend that you do not use that whole time. It definitely sets up some red flags for further employment in the U.S. For when it comes to looking at internships or co-ops, how long can you be on an internship or co-op for? It really depends on that employer and making sure that you're re-enrolling and re-registering for that CPT every semester.
Right, and I'll just kind of bounce off of that. So why we recommend is keeping that wait under the 365 days is technically the government can consider that overusage. CPT is a visa perk only. It's not a given, so it'll all depend on, your academics, if you're doing well, if you're not doing well, if you have credits remaining to use it for the actual CPT, and different things like that. So we try to keep it way under that. Technically, I would prefer to keep it under 2 CPTs, just to provide, security is what I would like to call it, for your OPT, potential H-1B in the future.
Yeah, and I know a few episodes as well, Christian and I have always hit hard on the fact that F-1 visas are student visas, right? So this, like you said, is just a benefit of having this visa. So definitely don't overuse it, but it is a great opportunity as well. So speaking of which, what are some of these benefits of going on CPT?
So looking at those benefits of CPT, it's really kind of looking at exploring your field. So getting experience, getting your feet on the ground, so to speak, and figuring out if this is something that you want to do, or if you want to kind of switch your plan, or see what kind of role your major can give you. So it's just that hands-on experience making you more applicable, or more making you more suited for that field.
I definitely agree with that, because my undergrad was accounting, and I kind of wish I went on a co-op or internship because it was not what I wanted to do, but here I am in IPS and I'm happy now. So what about from an immigration standpoint? Are there any benefits for CPTs in that end?
Absolutely. It's going to help them as far as, OPT employment goes, having that work experience in the United States, understanding how the workflow kind of is in the United States and what that looks like. And so putting that on their resume when they, after they graduate and move on to optional practical training, which is after they graduate, just looks really good, having that work experience.
Mm-hmm. And I know that we did touch on this as well with Natalie's coworkers, Jim and Melissa, but we had a whole episode covering Career Fair and Career Fest, but I guess we'll touch a little bit on it here as well. So if a student is interested in looking for some of these CPT positions, what are the best ways to go about this?
So one of the ways to kind of keep going through is just like using Handshake. A lot of that information is available on Handshake. There's filters that you can look at for if they're hiring CPT or if they do sponsorship sponsorships, all of that's on there, so that's kind of nice. One thing to kind of keep in mind is that when you take, or if you go on career, or if you go to career fair, if you go to career fest, or any sort of thing where you're networking with somebody in person, is that you are currently sponsored. So that whole thing of like, you have 3 years of all of these things, you don't have to be like, yes, I need sponsorship. The answer is no, you don't really need sponsorship right now. So you're covered. But having that conversation with employers and letting them know like, hey, this is what this is. You are the best informed person when it comes to what your status is.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, because as of CPTs, Michigan Tech is your sponsor, right? So you don't need that additional, stuff from the company. But perfect. Yeah, that's great information. So moving into now the flow of things. So let's say people have been job hunting. They see an opportunity that they are potentially going to get. What are the academic eligibility requirements to go on CPT?
So it depends on if you're an undergraduate or if you're like a master's student or a PhD student. So if you're a PhD or master's student, you need to have a 3.0 GPA and you need to be here at least 2 semesters. Say you get here this summer, or say you got here summer of 2025. You could go to the career fair, which happened this week, and talk to the people. Oftentimes they're hiring for summer 2026. And so you could go and look for summer 2026 because that's when you're eligible. For undergraduate students, that GPA is 2.0, and we, again, 2 semesters in, so then, again, so say you get here the fall, you could start looking for the fall of 2026.
And that isn't a Michigan Tech requirement, the 2 full semesters, that's governmental, so we don't want you to ever think we're being mean and you have to be like, why do I have to be enrolled for 2 full semesters? Unless it's an integral part of your degree, then it technically has to be that 2 full semesters. We'll have some students come to us and say, well, some universities do, right away CPT, and that is because it is part of their actual degree requirement to knock it out. And unfortunately, that is not the case here at Michigan Tech. So it is a governmental requirement.
Yeah, and that does actually bring up a question that we were planning on asking you guys from a student, but you mentioned about it counting towards your degree requirements and things like that. And so for Michigan Tech, even though it's not required, do some of these programs allow you to use some of these credits towards their degree completion?
Yes, so it really depends on the department. So some departments use it as an elective, or it can replace something, or it could be like your senior capstone. So it really depends on the department. So when you are registering or you're thinking about taking a co-op class, say you have an offer on the table, all of these things, the questions you need to ask your advisor is there any wiggle room, or is there any class that this can replace? And if the answer is yes, figure out if it's 1 or 2 credits that you need to take. We've been having a lot of kind of issues with with students taking 1 credit and then finding out later that they should have taken 2. So definitely be proactive in asking your academic advisor those pointed questions of like, okay, does this count for a elective? And if it does, how many credits do I need to take? And then really sit and look through it. So maybe even doing kind of that looking at that degree requirement with your academic advisor and really sitting with them and talking about it, not just saying, hey, can you check this form for me? Then them being like, sure, and then it's a yes, and then later on it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
what have I done?
So the application process, people think that's the hardest part, but sometimes it's that prep before, making sure you're following all your guidelines and making good progress there. Which, speaking of which, at what point is it too late to go on CPT? Because Machel, I know you mentioned if you're at a certain amount of credits, you're no longer eligible. Is there a specific number for that?
Sure. So like if the student is in coursework mode versus, let's say, research mode, once they hit their 30 credits, they technically, governmental standards are supposed to be done with their degree, right? So once you hit that 30, we won't let you participate in CPT because you're technically supposed to be done and moving on to OPT.
And that's at the graduate level.
And that's at the graduate level, yes.
Is there any is there any like regulations for the undergrad?
I think it's basically, what is the undergrad, how many do they have to be finished? I don't know the exact number, but it's whatever their degree requirement is to
Okay.
finish that undergrad. Same kind of rule applies.
If it's getting close and what it counts. Okay, awesome. So let's say they meet the requirements, they do their planning with their advisor, they get a job offer. Where do they start? Where does the application process start? What documents need to be submitted?
So, so this is a total Natalie question.
I know. I was looking right at you when I asked.
So when we're looking at the registration process, so all of that happens in-house in career services. So this isn't something your academic advisor is really like registering for you, or this isn't something that you can register yourself on BandWeb. We do everything in-house, which is kind of nice, but also problematic sometimes. So when we're looking at this, what you need is you need your offer letter, because we need proof that you're actually working someplace. And we need to double check to make sure that offer is actually in your word. So sometimes it'll be like, oh, I'm doing this really cool thing, and then it turns out you're like an RA someplace, or you're like a student counselor, and your degree is in mechanical engineering, and it's like, no, that is not in your major, that does not work. So we need to make sure that your offer is actually in your major. So we kind of run through that offer letter. We also need your co-op agreement, which is basically stating that whom you're working for is interested in kind of educating you up. So kind of mentoring you, doing evaluations, so midway through, at the final evaluation, that they're kind of there for your success. And they're not going to give you menial work, so you're not in the back closet sorting wires. So like you're actually doing the work that is going to help you in your career. So that's kind of the co-op agreement. So those are the two forms that we need from you looking at documents. Then through that process, we go through your academic advisors, so you're going to have a sit-down chat with them, making sure that this is in your degree path, or seeing if it does fit your degree path, how many credits that you should be taking, and that they give you the like, yes, you're good to go, everything's looking great. So they're kind of verifying that you're ready to go based on that academic program, saying like, yes, we've had this conversation, you know what you need to do, you know how many credits you need to go for. From there, we then talk to the conduct office, making sure that there's nothing going on there where it's just like, hey, you don't have like an outstanding parking ticket situation, like all of this stuff. Like we go through conduct. Next, we talk to financial aid, making sure that there's not any scholarships or loans that you have that have to say that you're in active status or have to remain in active status. So what that means is that if you're thinking about 1 or 2 credits, if you take 1 credit, if you're an undergraduate, that means that you are no longer an active student. So that means that you're part-time, okay? If you have a loan that says that you have to be active, you should have taken 2 credits, okay? So that's kind of that financial financial moment of being like, hey, how bad did you screw up? And, you need to take either 1 or 2 credits, and they're going to let you know if you have any stipulations there. So that's why we talk to them. All right, so then we talk to the academic advisor, we talk to the financial aid, we talk to the conduct office. From there, we kind of go back to a verification check, making sure all of the ducks are in a row, and then we register you for the course. Once you are registered, there's no flags, everything's good. Then I send you off to Machel, and then she approves that CPT I-20. So you fill out that CPT I-20 authorization form, and then we're good from there. One thing that is changing this semester, so looking at spring 2026 registration that opens up October 20th, so instead of our website giving you like the 5 things, it's all going to happen through handshake experiences. So we're organizing it so that way you are going through the assembly line of being like, you do this, this, then you do this. Because before it was really hard to keep track of where students were. So now it's like, all right, you're on step 2. You need to do all the steps to get to next. So we're trying to streamline the process so that we don't have any stragglers.
Yes. I'm a planner. I love the checklists.
And like what she was saying is, so I guess I just want to clarify that this is all done within house, right? This is not, it does not go out to the government. It doesn't, the application doesn't go to USCIS. It is all done in-house at Tech. So the process can run depending on deadlines for services and different things, it could be about 2 to 3 weeks. So they want to be proactive. And like, if you get that job, get your stuff in, get it going, and then be able to get that I-20, because you have to have that I-20 before you can even start. And that's where I come in.
Right.
And so I'm going to be checking that form that Natalie sends them to make sure, for instance, if they haven't done a program extension, or they're going to need a program extension, or they ever did a program extension.
Right.
Things like that, because we can't give you CPT, and we can't give you a program extension once you do CPT. So there's so many variables.
Yeah.
And I think what, I'd like to say is a lot of people or a lot of students will think we're being mean, or if we say like, no, you can't do this, you're not eligible for the CPT, the government doesn't like that. We're trying to protect your long-term status, where a lot of them are thinking just right now, and that isn't my job. My job is to look long-term for OPT and the 24-month step OPT and H-1B, potentially leading on to green card.
Right.
So my biggest part is to keep you in good governmental status, not just academic, so that they can be successful.
Right.
Absolutely. And then another thing that I want to clarify, all of those steps are different departments on campus. So then when we're talking about, it's like, okay, so I turned in my stuff, so say the semester starts January, I don't even know the start date for January
5th.
I get all my stuff in January 5th. My program or my offer starts January 7th. Don't know if those dates I'll actually align right. But when we're looking at, say you do that, you turn it in, you're supposed to do it 2 weeks ahead of time. And the reason is that you're going through all of these different departments on campus. So if it comes to my office, I might check it off that first day you see it. Then I pass it off to the next person. I pass it off to the next person. They're not going to see it within that 40 minutes.
Right.
It might take them 1 or 2 days to get back to you. They might be on vacation.
Yeah, right.
So then it's like, oh.
Right.
Yeah.
The vacation piece is a huge one.
Yes.
Because
Right.
now going into December,
That transition.
our winter break, all of our offices are closed.
Right.
Right? From a certain standpoint. And so they need to be proactive.
Right.
Because what will happen is we'll get students like, well, I didn't get the offer. Well, sorry, but we're not working. No, we're all off. We're closed.
Yeah.
It's not that we're being mean. It's just that's the winter break. We can't process it when we're not there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
If you can, ahead of time.
Yeah.
Do all the things that you can.
Yes.
And that opportunity opens October 20th.
Yes.
That registration process.
Yeah.
Yes, October 20th, the special day. Don't be reaching out to Machel at 7 a.m. on a Monday when you're supposed to start work at 8. So we did mention as well how the dates of the CPT authorizations need to fall and match the academic semester. So is there a date range that these start and end dates need to follow, and where can I find that information?
So I was actually having this conversation with Machel and Christian the other day because I was like, some of this seems like it's a little crazy.
Yeah.
It really falls between like 1 to 2 weeks. So when we're looking at that range date, that's posted on our co-op at MT or co-op website on our career services portal page. Okay, so we'll have that little calendar posted. So all of the ranges are like within 1 or 2 weeks of the start/end. When we're talking about the end date, that can get a little bit sticky. And the reason why it gets a little bit sticky is that it has to be tied to the academic semester. And if you're graduating in December, you can't go over your graduation date. Like, so September 19th, that's the day. Or December 19th, that's the day. You can't go over that part.
Right.
So when that end date is, it's a firm cutoff. And same thing with your start or end dates, or that start date too. It's a firm cutoff. You can't start September 8th. The end date is September 2nd.
Right.
Keeping in mind that there's a co-op course that is tied into this.
Yeah.
So you can't be a month into, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I want to start a month later, and this co-op course has already started a month ago. You're behind. It's just like a class, and you have to pass it. It's not optional.
Right.
Yeah. It's part of this CPT requirement.
Right.
And if you don't pass that co-op course, you won't get another co-op. So it's imperative that, these start and end dates fall within those academic calendars to align with that academic calendar, because it is credit bearing.
Yeah.
It's not like we're pulling these out of thin air. We have gone through these dates numerous times for numerous years, and we are pushing them out as far as we possibly can for the students, both in the start and in the end date, to give them as much leeway as possible. And we have done our research to make sure that it's within those timeframes that doesn't cause a problem later on.
Right. And in terms of the co-op course, how is a student added to that? Is that something they do on their own, or is that something that Career Services assists with?
Yeah, so that registration process is that how it's going to work is that you go to our co-op website, which is on that Career Services kind of platform at the Michigan Tech website. And there's going to be a link to our experience page for Handshake. And from there, that's where that whole assembly line process starts. So the student starts that process once they've completed all of those checkpoints and gotten approval from their academic advisor, financial aid, conduct office, myself, and then we register you.
Okay, awesome.
So we do the registration. One thing that I want to talk about a little bit is that for that co-op course, one thing that I would really encourage you to do is it's a really great opportunity to network with your peers. So when we're looking at like creating those discussions, or if we're looking at kind of commenting on somebody's hiring story, these are little bits of nuggets that you get to learn on what does it take for an international student to get hired, okay? So it's just like all of those questions that we have about who's hiring international, who will accept CPT, who's looking at H-1B, like all of those questions that you have, that co-op platform, looking at those discussions, those are your peers that you get to network with.
Okay.
So having that opportunity and really sitting and talking with them and then connecting with them via LinkedIn, it's a really great resource, because even if they're not graduating now, they will be graduating soon. So having that in your mind of being like, oh, we had a really great conversation in this class. I really liked what this person had to say. Follow them on LinkedIn, chat with them, figure it out. These people are resources.
Right. This is actually a good idea that we do these things, because I learned from these episodes as well, because I always thought, oh, it's just individual, stuff, you complete assignments, but it's really cool to hear that it's more of a collaborative effort of people, that are going through the same type of flow. So that's awesome. Is there a charge, like a tuition charge, for being in this co-op course?
Is a charge, and it's based just on the credit. So it's not like there's a fee because you're doing like biology or some like sciencey fee. There's no fee associated other than the tuition.
Okay. And now moving more on like an immigration standpoint, a few questions pertaining to CPT. I guess the first few are pertaining to the employer. So is a student allowed to work for more than one employer while on CPT?
Yes, they can. We don't advise that, right? Because your focus should be on that one employer, and especially if it's like, obviously if it's a full-time employment, right? We're not going to authorize you for 2 full-time CPTs, just because how are you going to work 80 hours a week? So the biggest thing is, as far as part-time CPTs, have we had students do 2 part-time CPTs and then also like work at Michigan Tech? Yes, but that's a lot, right? And our biggest takeaway is that our relationships with these employers from Career Services standpoint is important, right? So we don't want anybody to mess up with that employer, because that looks bad for any other international students coming after them. And it messes up that relationship with Michigan Tech and the other career services for that employer in general. So basically, we really advise against it, just because of the co-op course that they have to, do.
Right.
And it's a lot, making sure that you don't know what every week at a job is going to throw at you. You might think, oh, I'm going to be able to manage this, and then all of a sudden you get a huge project, and you just don't know.
Right. Yeah. And that's another reason, too, why we don't advise students to take other courses while on CPT other than that required co-op course, because, you don't know what your workload will be like. It might vary per week, and maybe the week that you're busy for your job is also a busy week for your class. So definitely a lot of risks associated there.
On that, I'd like to just point is technically students are only supposed to be taking one online course that actually counts towards their degree, and that would be the co-op course, and because that is online. So any courses they want to take besides the co-op course that end up being online technically don't count towards that, right?
Yep.
Requirement. And that's a governmental rule. That is not an IPS Michigan Tech situation.
Right. And then another question that I know, Machel, this is probably one you answer all the time. CPT in your last semester, yes or no?
So we say in IPS no, because the government doesn't like you to utilize that as a bridge into your OPT. And another reason is you are technically supposed to be on campus during your last semester. Again, that's a governmental requirement, not an IPS Michigan Tech requirement. So the government looks at that as though you took a bridge onto your OPT. And again, like you said earlier, this is an F1 student visa. Here for studying, and the work authorization is a perk only. And so, again, we try to protect your status. Do students do it? Yes. Do we make them actually sign a waiver in that Google form acknowledging these risks that it could potentially cause you red flags in your governmental record or cause you bigger issues down the road with your OPT or your potential H-1B? Yes. Have I seen students have issues? Yes. So again, all these reasons are why we advise against doing OPT in that last semester.
Yeah, I know one of the questions is always, well, is it illegal? And it's like, no, but, like you said, we have to assume worst case scenario. We're looking out for farther in the future, whereas they're looking right now.
Again, with that, Jamie, like you're saying, is, again, with Michigan, with CPT and Michigan Tech, CPT is supposed to be an integral part of your degree, right? So why other universities may kind of be able to allow it, and they allow it, is because, for instance, that student could only do that CPT in their last semester, and it's part of their degree requirement. Now, if the government were to come back and say to the student, hey, why did you do that CPT in that last semester? You're going to struggle to find reasons why you did it, because it really wasn't part of your integral degree requirement, right? So having documentation when you go to apply for OPT or H-1B and they want to know why you did that on your last semester when you were supposed to be on campus, they're going to struggle to come up with that. That could be a potential huge issue down the line.
Right, definitely. And then a few more quick-fire immigration questions, because I know these are our most common, so might as well throw them out there. Do you need to update your mailing address while you are on CPT?
Of course.
Yes.
That is, no matter what, when any international student relocates at all, they have 10 days. That's a governmental rule, again, not Michigan Tech IPS. A lot of people think we just make up these rules, right? It's not us making the rules, it's the government. So they would go into their experience and they would update it, and then Mariana or whoever in the front line of IPS is going to run a report that will filter into CBIS and update their CBIS.
Yeah, we don't want the government looking for you in Houghton, Michigan when you're in Salt Lake City, Utah. So definitely very, very important as one of your pieces. And also, can you travel while you were on CPT? And are there any additional documents that you should carry while you're doing that?
So yes, they can. Again, that's going to be up to the employer that they're working for, if they're going to give them this authorized leave, whether that be paid or unpaid vacation. That's totally up to the employer. But yes, do students travel? Like, some emergencies happen, you guys, and they need to go home, And it does happen, and as long as the employer is okay with it, IPS is fine with it. You just need to make sure that, on your I-20, that you have a valid travel signature on that second page. Any I-20 IPS issues you, whether, if it's a new CPT I-20 or whatever, you will always see that you get a travel signature on that second page. Those travel signatures are good for a year for CPT. So just make sure, again, that it's valid. It should be, but who knows if I forget to sign it, you just never know.
Write the wrong year. I know I've done that before. Yes, it's so, yeah.
So always check that.
We make mistakes too.
But yes, they can travel.
Yeah.
We wouldn't advise them to be out for, like a month, because that CPT is supposed to be done in the United States. So we don't want to cause issues again with Michigan Tech and that employer relationship. So, tread cautiously when traveling. But so you would just take, obviously, your I-20, your visa, your passport. I would take a copy of that job offer letter for the CPT. So when you re-enter, you have that as well.
Definitely. And I know another question that we get a lot is if you need to apply for a reduced course load while on CPT, because obviously the full-time requirement is 9 for graduate students, 12 for undergrad. But because they're enrolled in that co-op course through Career Services, they don't need to, because that four-year student and immigration status considers you full-time. So that's another common question we get. So wrapping it all up, we talked a lot about the application process. We talked about the rules, who we're working with. It's a whole group effort to make sure that you can work on your CPT. What are some resources that are available, whether that's websites? I know you mentioned about Handshake and Experience. What are some places that students can go if they ever have any questions or need clarification?
So our co-op website for looking at career services is 100% a great place to go. It'll have like frequently asked questions, it'll have the requirements, it'll have the schedule. Where you actually go to like register or try to start the registration process is on that Handshake Experience, but all the information that you need is going to be on our co-op page. And then if you do have questions, you're more than welcome to come into Career Services. We're in the administration building on the second floor, room 220. And our walk-in hours are from 10 o'clock until 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if you have a question where you're like, I just want to make sure that I see Natalie, you can 100% just make an appointment with me on Handshake.
And a great point that she's talking about too is a lot of students think, well, we just go to IPS for CPT, right? Because we give them the I-20, and that is not true. Everything starts in career services. So whatever Natalie can't answer that might be governmental, she will reach out to me and ask me that, or send me the email, or copy me in an email, and I will then assist with that. So as far as like, I just want to reiterate the resources and all that is great pieces, but that it actually starts in career services. So she is your resource. She's the biggest resource there is to help you with navigating that process.
Right. Yeah, it is important too to realize that some departments might have different requirements, because obviously on our end in IPS, we're focusing on that immigration requirements. So your advisor might say, well, this is fine if you do this, this, and this, but you have to keep in mind, right? So every box needs to be checked. Get your checklists out. Career Services got that all set up for you. Make sure you're covering your bases. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty much all that I had in terms of content. Does anyone else have anything else to add that you can think of?
I had one question that came in yesterday that I do think is really, and because I've had it a few times now, which I never had it before, and I've been doing this for years. Students are messaging me and emailing me just saying, hey, can I just get my CPT going right now and then get the job? Right? Like, not with CPT. No. So for CPT, you have to have a job offer to even apply. And I think there is that, and it is confusing because with OPT, they don't need that job offer. So when they're done with their academics and they're moving on to OPT, 99% of the students apply without having an employer. But with CPT, you have to have the job.
Right. Yeah. And it's great that, too, I had to comment that it's funny that our offices are right down the hall from each other, because it's like we bounce back and forth so much with this, but that just shows what goes into it. And yeah, so I would like to thank you both for being here, as well as all the work that you put in for this and all these pieces that you're doing to help out our students get their careers started and get that experience. So
thanks for having us.
Yes.
And it's so much fun working with students and helping them along the way. They're so much fun.
And it is. And we want them to get that experience.
Yes.
But we also want to protect them and not have them over.
Yeah.
3 CPT things.
We're not mean. We just care about your future. And again, what is that golden date of when they can start applying for spring 2026? October 20th. So bombard all the inboxes, get started on your job searches.
And one thing that is changing that I want to just, so if you're registering for spring or you have an offer for spring, the opening or the date to start registration is October 20th. If you are looking for summer 2026, it's not happening at the same time because it's crazy. We're now going to start it in January. So if you have an offer, once the window closes for registration for spring, we will open that window for summer 2026. So that way we're not trying to figure out who's doing what.
Yes.
A point being on that is we don't do the I-20s right away, okay? Because often something happens and let's say the employer reneges the CPT or you decide I can't do the CPT. We don't want to go in and process that too early because if we have to cancel it, it causes red flags. And once I process at I-20, we don't change those dates. And so that's an integral part to understand as well. And another huge piece is when you accept a job offer, we aren't going to let you go and change employers, right? You've signed that job offer, they're expecting you. It looks really bad for Michigan Tech if we were to let you out of that contract or that agreement with that employer, and again, causes issues with those employers. So don't be applying for 30 jobs and then be like, sign one right away, and then, oh my God, I got an offer from Tesla, and no. Once we process that for that other employer and you have Tesla then on the table offering you, we can't let you do it.
Yeah.
So make sure that the job that you accept is the one that you want.
Yeah, we see how successful the career fair is, and we would hate to burn those bridges and ruin those relationships and have some of those big employers, drop out and not offer those internships anymore. So, again, thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we will see you next time on another episode of the Talk a Latte podcast.
This has been an IPS production with Michigan Tech University. If you would like to be featured in a future episode, reach out to us at ips@mtu.edu or come to our office in the administration building. Bye!